Flush It Away by Jaknekon and auntieW. I fell in love hard, got hurt even harder, but they always say you reap what you sow, and I reaped it big time, coming and going. I deserved most of what happened. Notice how I say most. There are just some things in life y'all can't take the blame for. Soon you'll know exactly what I mean. The blood poured from a gash in the back of my head, but I wasn't too worried. I had heard somewhere that scalp was an easy bleed, and so I took the comment at face value and started to crawl forward. I didn't have any internal map for a situation like this, so I simply followed my nose and moved. The first few feet were the hardest. Everything ached. God, even my eyebrows hurt. My fingers dug into the soft ground, squishy and odd. If my senses would have worked at that moment, I would have vomited up the bile in my empty stomach. The thing of it was, I didn't even have a cognitive sense of what the substance was till I made it clean through to the other side. Human flesh is soft when it's in decay, and with the moisture, humidity, rot, decomposition, made for a mud or gore, and I had crawled right through it, literally. My skin, for what it was worth, wasn't burning, so no acidic compounds were apparently used in the process. I almost immediately realized as I reached the end of the tunnel as it was and tried to stand, that I had fallen from some kind of height. Perhaps not fallen, but pushed. Maybe not pushed. Dumped was a better word for what had happened to me. First my boyfriend dumped me for another girl. The creatures dumped me like so much waste product from a failed experiment. And at that moment I failed to see the difference between the two forms of it, used for the selfish benefit of another and then discarded. My legs ached, but they didn't seem to be broken. Yet I couldn't stand just yet. No loss, though. The tunnel's clearance is not made for standing upright. It was constructed as no more than a body trash chute at any time. I look ahead and the ramp goes downward once more. Above me is a service ladder to explain the more or less landing, and then I hear the sounds of rushing water, perhaps? And I know, move now or I'm going to be flushed down the toilet of my life. He flushed the toilet and left the seat up. I moved past him to lower it again. Anal bitch, he muttered, and I just took it like I had no spine. But I must have had a spine, or the reapers wouldn't have enjoyed sticking it in quite so much. I could still feel their alien test needles in my back, so I reached for the lowest curved rung to start to pull myself up. Inside the alien storm train, a sea of putrid crap washed past my dangling toes. I even imagined once disembodied hand grabbing at my feet and... oh, fuck, this was not good. I just kept telling myself to keep moving. As long as I breathe, there's another chance of making it out of here alive, though most likely not in one piece. Meanwhile, inside my head, he complained that I was nuts, certifiable, and maybe that wasn't far from the truth. But who died and made him boss? I watched as he stormed out for the, well, call it 14th time, give or take a handful, and wondered if he was headed straight for her house. Yep, always thinking with the dick. The light from above was not heaven sent, but it did keep me moving toward it, which is precisely the opposite of what they tell you to do. I just kept praying that it wouldn't come out under the table of some surgical bed, human debris drain hole. Thankfully, I was nowhere near the truth. Well, it actually was the truth, but at least the operating room was empty, as I crawled out like so much slime. Men and aliens, 6 of one, half a dozen, blah blah blah. Couldn't understand why he couldn't be alone for more than a day at a time. So women are the weaker sex. No, sir, we are not. Alone for years at a time. We have the stamina to face abuse, isolation, rape, raising children alone, just about anything. And men, Forget about it. They can't even stand to be on their own for very long, which I learned as he pulled up in the driveway in her pickup truck to collect his things. He was moving in with her, out of the frying pan into the fire. As I slowly tugged my stiff, most likely injured legs out of the tunnel and into the pristine white medical room, I looked about as best I could, whispering a prayer to whoever would listen to in this place. Hopefully it seemed to be empty. The taste in my mouth, now that I had the ability and sense to taste once again, was the metallic-y copper of blood. But as I ran my tongue over my lips, no cut could be found. Maybe I was bleeding internally, or perhaps I was merely going slowly insane. I guess both were more or less correct. And squinting from the intense whiteness of the clean room, I pressed myself to the wall and began to move, hoping for a door of some kind. As the door opened and he stepped inside and said, "I thought you'd be at work. This is kinda awkward. I'm here to get my things." I nodded and said, "I was sick. Sick stomach. You know how I get when things upset me." He nodded back and said softly, "I know." "I know," I repeated as I felt the seam in the wall of endless polar bear in a snowstorm, white on white, and turning to face it, saw nothing, yet my fingers remained in a fissure, a crack, and slowly slid along the line of the wall, down again, till I heard a fine click, and an even finer whoosh, and the damn thing opened. And he laid the box down, and in it went all the fine treasures we had accumulated in a lifetime of living together, pictures and souvenirs. And as I watched him collecting himself to give to her, I picked up the box of condoms on the nightstand table and promptly threw it and its entire contents at him. A nice showering rain of prophylactics. "Nice. How nice of you. I won't need them. Pacha's on the pill," he said, gritting his teeth to avoid biting me, and I nodded and turned my back on him for the moment, as I counted to 10, to 100, to avoid showing him the rage and hurt in my eyes, and simply shrugging as if his words had no real meaning to me. I grabbed my purse and keys from the side table and opened the door, stepping through it, into another room whose decor was very much like the first, and then some. A sea of operating rooms, each with a connecting door to the next. And on the fourth one, the room was not apparently empty, not unless you counted the dead body on the table about to be dumped down the same flush sewer system I'd just crawled out of. "Help me," or so it seemed to say as its blade-fingered hand reached out for me, trying without any luck or any real effort to grab a hold of me. As I moved away from the "help me," away from the hand, and out the front door into my car parked out on the street, which he must have loved since now he had the apartment all to himself. I was making this dumping of me far too easy for the cheating bastard, wasn't I? I already knew the answer, though the bartender obliged anyway with "sure did." I didn't need to hear through the tequila haze. Me, aka the bitch, him and them. "What would you have done, I am not about to stay anywhere I'm not welcome, nor would be with anyone I'm not wanted by." Bartender shrugged. He liked this not at all. Perhaps he wanted me to stay and fight for him. Perhaps he wanted me to stay and stand up for myself. Neither of which I would do, 'cause I just didn't give a fuck anymore. Life or death was the real question up here now, here in this starship. Unless, of course, this was hell and I was way down yonder south of the border and didn't know that either. "Help me, please," came the weak voice of the thing on the lab slab once more, and since I was the only thing in motion now present in the white room, I whispered, "Help you how?" dumbly. The thing then stopped moving at all, dead as dead could be, even if it wasn't. I sure as hell wasn't going to feel for a pulse or put my head to its chest and listen for a beat. And then I watched as the tableau, as it changed markedly, reminding me just exactly what was probably done to me. As the bed tipped and the body dumped. Lovely. And no, why fight for him when he's already fucking gone and is fucking someone else, yeah? I said to the bartender, who had already moved down the bar to the next customer, a busty blonde. I bit my lip and thought, typical. So, what now? I said to myself, turning my back on the now very empty lab bed and turning my mind off to the flushed creature, only briefly wondering who or what would be next on that operating table as experiment number 112, 113. Could have been 1,112 for all I knew. Finishing whatever swill I was drinking, I tossed some bills on the bar and left. Stepping out into the darkling street, the fog encompassed me, and I wanted to say aloud, "We've got a real pea super tonight, Holmes." But since I had had quite a lot to drink and didn't exactly want to get molested in the drunk tank at the local county jail, I held down my gorge and held myself together, put one barely stumbling foot in front of the other, heading, oh God, not home. I had no other place else to go, did I? Anyway, it wasn't home anymore. It was most likely long since gone, forming her bed now. And the bed in the next two rooms, linked by joining wall clicks, were both empty of cadavers to be. And I whispered, "Must be a slow abduction season, huh?" Making jokes kept what little sanity I had left in place. Must be a slow abduction season. The joke was quite untimely, as I was to learn. In the final lab room had a whole host of bodies lined up, strung up, gutted and hollowed out. A cannibal taxidermist's dream. And I lost what little contents my poor beleaguered stomach contained at that point. It wasn't very much. It wasn't even solid or liquid, that in-between mix. Flushing the toilet, I sent the rest of the booze from my system, turned off the bathroom light in the now very empty apartment. I held myself together all through that horrible first night, traces of booze in my system helping me to pass out. The morning was the worst. Waking up alone, waking up in sheets that still smelled of him. God, was that stupid or what? As I fell out of the bed in a tangle of sheets and tugged them this way and that in a rage of dragging them into the bathtub, I did what any female in my position would do. Set them aflame and close the shower doors to keep the burning down the whole place. It didn't quite work out that way, though. The glass shower doors shattered, porcelain scorched, and the now tub-soggy sheets more or less smoldered. Alien Abduction 101. The scene reminded me of something out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets Hospital Hell. This was an impossibly macabre tableau, to take it in all at once. I found my thighs shaking as I slid to the clinically white floor, and didn't know what to do next, though passing out from shock seemed a strong possibility, even a pleasantly preferable one to slowly going mad. But then I heard the sound of footsteps, and thought, holy shit, not wanting to be cleaned out and hung up to dry just yet. The apartment in my mind. As I lay on the floor of the alien lab spazzing out, I slowly drifted into a flashback Hollywood style, wringing out wet sheets and pillowcases. The attempt at making a bonfire of my former life with him had failed. And while he had a brand spanking shiny new life with that bitch Patya, I had no bed sheets for my bed. Our bed. No, my bed. I felt a tug on my body and my eyes opened to see that I was surrounded. heads. I'm not exactly sure that's what they were, but heads tilted looking at me, bobbling heads on snake necks, undulating, eyes filled with menace looking at me now intently. I was a cockroach that had crawled out of their sewer unexpectedly, and they were evidently considering how and when to squish me underfoot. Of aliens and old boyfriends. As I was lifted onto my feet and then yanked along by many bony hands and fingers, I slowly began to slip into what I can only describe as shock. Shock as the bodies writhed in ecstasy in the bed that I had made only that morning, the sheets and pillowcases I had changed out, and the inhuman sounds of mating made me hunch over and throw up all over the nearest body, holding and dragging me. I was abruptly dropped and then picked up again by another, but all I wanted to say was, wasn't my fault. But it was. Weird science to the extreme. And it was like they'd never seen vomit before, for as I was hauled through the corridors, being banged into walls like a dragged rag doll, one of the creatures sealed up the regurgitated contents of my troubled stomach in a Tupperware container. Well, anyways, that's what I thought of it. And then all the infernal dragging stopped, and I dreaded to know where we had gotten to at last. I mean, was I about to be tossed into a galactic Iron Maiden, or just liquidated? The lovers. And they heard me vomiting outside the bedroom, and I heard their hushed whispers and struggling bedsheet tangled bodies struggling to get free a little too quickly and tumbling pathetically to the floor. And all I could manage to shout out in their direction was, "Why my bed?" before stumbling to my own feet and heading for a baseball bat that he kept in the hallway closet. Trouble brewing. He heard me running for the hallway, the closet. He must have, because tense moments later he was on top of me, struggling for the weapon, his superior strength slowly making it slide from my white-knuckled grip as I growled and shoved at him. Growled and shoved at them, dozen grasping pairs of cruel, soulless fingers and hearts. Surgeon's table, their office space. Hey, hey, don't let me become an alien autopsy. The B-flats in concert. I saw my legs go up in the air, and in a bedroom with him, I'm guessing pre-breakup, that would have been fine. But there was no bedroom, nothing at all here but the clinical, the sterile, and death when they were done with my medical school cadaver body. So I kicked, flailed limbs, thrashed, and got my head banged on the floor for my efforts. I held still for long moments as I was dragged along. I woke up for the second time that day, month. Wasn't sure about that anyways, as I lost track of all time. Found myself resting on a small single cot. For some reason, they had not killed me, and for that moment only, I was grateful. Though I knew not the real reason why I kept turning up alive like a bad penny. My arm and chest hurt like fucking hell, and as I slowly tried to sit up, my body felt like it was on fire. What I would soon come to realize was my apparent hardiness of constitution, strong physiognomy, as it were, impressed them. I was used for all new series of tests. They ejected my deltoid and sternum area, all with a new viral strain, presumably to watch at the rate at which my body would collapse internally. But such was not meant to be, to their great disappointment. Doctors would later tell me that there was no cure for what I got injected with during my 4-star stay aboard the flipping mothership. Although, as they told it, I was somewhere in the hovels of Eastern Europe instead of the mothership in orbit. Some quack kidney thieves trying fruitlessly to tear my guts out for the black market organ trade. Yeah, right. Doctors don't know shit. As I said before, I lay there, my deltoid and sternum aflame with pain and infection. and he was already in the arms of some new female, Patya the pregnant. Life sucks. I walked past their brand spanking new condo the next morning, or was it the morning after that? Being dumped tends to make one lose all track of time. But as I moped and loped past, feeling very much like a rabid dog, slobbering, enraged, and unwanted, I could have sworn my ears perked up. I could have sworn I heard them making love. Bastards. And as my eyes closed and the need to pass out from the pain, I felt it subside. The seconds of relief were quickly replaced by a feeling of bony hands and fingers on my flesh once again. Bastards. Back aboard the alien vessel. The blade that sliced through my sternum, in what seemed very much like a direct passage to my groin, had more of a feeling of heat than of pain. A tugging coupled with a burning sensation, reminiscent of being cauterized. I have the same parts as anyone else, I thought I heard myself saying. On solid ground as well. I have the same parts as anyone else, I whispered. Just outside their little love nest, and in truth, he had loved me once, but that love was long since past. Someone, shiny and new in shorter dresses, had caught his eye and attention. I woke up wrapped like a mummy in an old Lon Chaney movie, which surprised me. Okay, in truth, nothing surprised me anymore since the abduction, but I hadn't expected the little green men, or the little nor green, to use bandages on my ailing body. Unless, of course, there was more nastiness they wanted to do to me, and on me, and in me, and with me. And then they returned to my room. And when she showed up at my apartment a month later, asking for his share of the security deposit, which really surprised me, I told the very pregnant Pacha to waddle her soon-to-be-married ass the hell out of my doorway, which thankfully she did. And then he returned to my place. The attack of the little green men. As they arrived in my room aboard the mothership, I screamed my head off this time, and I still have no idea why, just did. Anger, frustration, real fear. Screamed until my throat was raw, until I had laryngitis and was spitting blood. The sound of my voice must not have been pretty, and the slap was not unexpected, though most unwelcome. Get your stinking paws off of me, you damn dirty apes, I thought, but shouted, fuck you instead. Once more the world turned black. Attack of the ex-boyfriends. As he arrived at my apartment, the one we used to share, I screamed my head off this time, and I still have no idea why, it just did. From anger, frustration, and real fear. Screamed until my throat was raw, and so I had laryngitis and was spitting up blood. The sound of my voice must not have been pretty. The slap was not unexpected, though most unwelcome. Get your stinking paws off of me, you damn dirty ape, I thought, but shouted, fuck you instead. Once more the world turned black. Finale. Well, from here on out things turned decidedly darker, and so my tale winds down to its inevitable unpretty conclusion, but by no means was it a predictable one. The next series of incisions seemed to have been grafts of some sort. The blackout must have been longer than I had realized or imagined, for when I awoke on the final day, I was shown an image of myself in a reflective surface, a full-length one, like a dressing room mirror, and I resembled a tinker toy woman, bits and pieces of myself and of them, sewn together to make a whole being, deeper than the microscopic level, melded into the DNA. So what did it all mean? Was I one of them? Did I pass their tests and complete their initiation? I can hear the doctors talking to the orderlies, the doctors in their nicely pressed suits, their shiny leather shoes, with their I care so much glares and accusations. They whisper and hiss about how the police found me with him, his body, what was left, trying to flush the remains. And as I circled the table, where it was now strapped down and trussed up like a Christmas turkey, I saw him blink at me in horror, laying on the very same table I had at one point, but when I was still just human. I wanted to ask him how it felt to be a guinea pig, a lab rat, to crawl through the disposal tunnel of an alien vessel. But as I hit the machine lever and the tools buzzed to life, I gagged him, my fellow Greys watching me with respect from the shadows. And all I said over his muffled screams was, "What goes around comes around." And it did, and does, and will, over and over again, in a big, fat, shiny new life, new apartment, new pregnant girlfriend, circle in circle in circle, flushing and flushing and flushing, pounding, pounding, shattering wood, the screams of the neighbors, the rough hands, bony hands, dragging me down the hallways, red and blue blinding as cold metal restrains. More injections, more lights, more voices. My fellow Greys nod to me as I pass them in the sterile halls of the ship. Other patchwork faces, other beings who'd been taken apart and melded together. We stand and stare out the viewports into the eternal circles, the cold, unjudging voids. The end.